Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hi, my name is Haley, and there are a bunch of motorcycles going on in the background. Because as I'm recording this, it'll be Memorial Day tomorrow, technically. Um, so I did decide to basically have a monthly overview of May. As you guys know, I received laser eye surgery in April, and my finances were kind of thrown out of whack for the month of April and for the month of May, as all the co-pays and medicines I had to go buy and all of that upkeep. So what I decided to do is run through my first check of May that I did have the budget breakdown for, but I had to change it due to my medical emergency, and then go ahead and break down what my last check of May, at least full-time check of May, is. I'm trying to get back into recording, so sorry if I sound weird or say a lot or pause. My thoughts are not coming out in a straight line as of late, and I apologize for that in advance. So I'm just going to run through my first check and some of the changes I've made in my budget. The same, I budgeted $950 and received $1,021.80. As I was going through my debts and my bills, none of those changed. $235 went to my Direct Plus loan for my student loans for my first check. However, and this is probably the glaring difference, is when my medical copays came through in the beginning of May, I ended up paying a total of $242.38 from my check. That does not include any money that I took out of a medical sinking fund to also go towards copays. Wow, English. So I actually ended up with an $8 overage that I had to take from my account buffer at my bank in order to pay towards those copays and not completely deplete my medical sinking fund, because I also knew that more copays were to come with the resulting surgery. So my variable expenses, I will summarize that with my second check, but just to point out a difference here, I decided to stop the $2 going to my future funds and reroute it to my account buffer, not only to put the $8 back, but to also build it up each week so that when I have slight overages like this, it will just automatically pull from my account buffer back into my account. Overdraft protection. There we go. Couldn't think of the word. As well. So I do have two accounts that I keep at banks out of high yield savings account. I have one that's for all my bills, that you see here, and ones I also don't share here on YouTube. But I also have an account that I use as an account buffer just in case there are any overdraft fees and whatnot, or I have an emergency, to where trying to set up any type of transaction from my high yield savings account will take too long. And I'm trying to think of the other reason. Oh, if I pay something on a credit card and I want to pay it off quickly as possible, I basically pay from my account buffer to my credit card and then transfer from my high yield savings account back into my bank to repay myself. Kind of. I hope that made sense. But basically, I want to build up this account buffer. I don't have a goal number yet. I was thinking of maybe getting it to $1,000, kind of like a beginning emergency fund / rainy day fund that's more accessible than the one I have in my high yield savings account. Because I don't want to touch the one I have in my high yield savings account, because again, that's more so if I spend from my savings, but I need more money to cover for that, then I just transfer in that space. In my high yield savings account, my bank accounts are two separate places. So you guys feel free to let me know your thoughts about that. But I'm thinking of trying to build my account buffer at least to $1,000 and have a start emergency fund both in my high yield savings account and in my physical bank. So with all of that and these medical copays basically wiping out the rest of my check, I put nothing in my high yield savings account. Sorry about that, guys. There's noise outside. As I was saying, if I can get my thought back, or my train of thought back, intentional spending, yes. So if there's something that I either think I'm about to buy or I know I'm going to buy in a couple of days to where sending it to my high yield savings account and sending it back doesn't make sense, I just keep it in my bank account. Didn't get to do that either. So basically it was a bunch of goose eggs for my savings for the first half of May. Now, going into the second half, I actually got to keep most of my check, which I am so grateful for. For my second check of May, a budget $950. That's pretty standard. This check was $1,088.39. I did do some shifting around with this, or for the rest of my budget. So I've been going back and forth about continuing to pay on my Direct Plus loan versus my Stafford loan. Why? Because they have moved my date again for repayment. And I was monitoring it for a couple of weeks to see if it would change again. It has not. So thus far, as of right now, my repayment date to restart paying my Direct Plus loan is further out than the repayment date for my Stafford 1 loan. I believe Stafford 1 loan, the repayment is scheduled to restart in February. Basically meaning I probably have interest start accruing in January and then my official payments be due in February. And right now my Direct Plus loan is somewhere between August and September. And both of these are of 2026. So what I've decided to do is kind of shift gears a bit. I don't necessarily expect to pay off my Stafford loan completely now, especially since I wasn't focusing on it because it was the reverse for a while. And it was my smaller loan, and I did want to get my Direct Plus loan down. I still do, because interest-wise, it'll cost me the most in the long run. So any money that I put towards it from now until next August will be going to principal as of right now. I would like to start focusing on my Stafford 1 loan, not because it's going to cost me in the long run. It's really not. Comparatively, these interest rates are only 1% off from each other. The only big difference is that my Direct Plus loan is bigger. So what I'd like to do is pay down on my Stafford loan as much as possible so that by the time repayment starts in January, February of next year, I can actually have this payment either be smaller or not have to go towards this loan as long, and then snowball it into my Direct Plus loan. So when I start repayment for my Direct Plus loan, I could put in a larger lump sum every month on top of $500. What those numbers are going to look like, I would know until the end of this year, and I reassess where I'm at with my 2 loans. But I am deciding to change my approach, even though I love the debt avalanche, don't get me wrong. Mathematically, I know it makes the most sense. But right now, since both of them are at 0%, I would like to at least hammer out my Stafford loan so then I can make my larger payments to my Direct Plus loan and keep my timeline as much as I can. The goal is to pay off my loans entirely before I am 30. Right now, that's like 3-ish years away. Is that aggressive? Yes, and I understand I'm not going to be able to be as aggressive all the time, but I would at least like to try to hit 30, if not early 30s, before 35, because I do not want to carry these loans for the next decade of my life. So what I did from this check is I decided to put the $500 that would have gone to my Direct Plus loan. I decided to put that towards my Stafford loan. And so my Direct Plus loan only got the $235 from my first check. Like I said, am down to $30,000 on my Direct Plus loan. And I believe I will receive enough in my part-time check to get it exactly at that 30,000 mark. I think I'm at 30,000, like 200 and something. I'll put it on the screen if I'm incorrect, but I'm about there. And knowing that I get about that much from my check, part-time check, I'm just going to put that difference towards my Direct Plus loan, get it at that 30,000 mark, and just gradually work it down for the rest of this year. So can that change? Absolutely. But I believe I was just getting debt fatigue and paying solely on my Direct Plus loan. And once the dates changed and they flipped around order, like the more I could put towards my Stafford loan, so it'd be smaller. And honestly, if I can use any like tax return, birthday money, holiday money, whatever the case may be, to get my Stafford loan gone, either before repayment starts on it or at least very short term into repayment, that would be fantastic. So that's how that's going to be working out. Tides, there was a difference from the $95 I sent at the beginning of this month and the gross of my actual check. So that would be an additional $13 that I sent towards tithes, household, all those bills come out of my first check. My $6 personal came out just fine. Insurance has not changed yet. That will get reassessed in August. Yes, in August. So I'll worry about that when I get there. And there were no other bills that I paid money to from this check. So I'm going to keep flowing with that. My variable / automatic saving withdrawals, these are the costs that come out either weekly or bi-weekly or even monthly from my banking account into my high yield savings account, just in case I have situations like these where my check, I can't necessarily send it from my check. These funds or these accounts are still getting funding and funded without it having to come from my check directly all the time. So my buffer bucks, which is in my high yield savings account, that gets $20 and that's monthly. I've decided to keep it that way. I wasn't sure when I mapped this out. And then my Roth IRA is getting $25 monthly, and that has not changed yet. So those two are monthly. I still have this shift. I'm not going to have the total for that, mostly because I switched it $2 to my account buffer and reallocated my future funds elsewhere. So I believe as of right now, my account buffer technically only got $4. Because I switched in the middle of May. And then future home down payment, which is my DDC challenge, still gets $5 weekly, so I got $20 for a total this month. And then these two remain consistent. There. I did not have any impulse interventions because I did not have any money to even have impulses to begin with. Everybody basically was assigned to something. It was all hands on deck for the bulk of my finances for May, so I did not have really any room to spend on anything that wasn't necessary to begin with. Alright, and I actually got to put into savings and sinking funds this month. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to, which is fine. Life happens, stuff happens. I don't need to put into my savings all the time, but I like to for consistency's sake and to basically not fall off this routine entirely, at least. Alright, so I did not put anything into my first check funds. I will just do that or pick these back up in June. Hopefully, I'm still waiting on one more copay to process from my insurance. But thus far, what I do have, I believe I'll be able to cover it from my medical sinking fund, which at this point is practically depleted, and I will have to work on refunding that, which I showed you guys in my last video, which was 2 weeks ago at this point. How I'm using a Sloth Challenge from Lisa Grateful Me to try to build that back up as well. Okay, so insurance. This is me saving up for the home insurance payment that happens every year. I have basically swayed between either being responsible for part of property taxes or being responsible for home insurance. This year's home insurance, and I'm completely fine with that. So I've used a scratch off from T&L Budgets, which I believe they have closed their Etsy store. So I probably won't show the challenge on my channel because you guys wouldn't be able to get it as far as I know of. So, but just a shout out to T&L Budgets in general. Love their store. Alright, so I do not budget for this necessarily because it's based on what I scratched off, and I scratched off $60. So $60. Well, I scratched off $55, and then $5 will go into my escrow savings for my future home. So in total, $60 will be going in there. As far as home is concerned, I don't budget for this either, mostly because I just use whatever money is left over once I've budgeted everything else, and come back to it. So from this check, I was able to put $124. And I may take off this sticker to put current/future envelopes. Why? Or even remove this entirely, actually. Just going to remove this entirely. Why? Because I have decided that, or at least I've sat down with myself and realized I feel like I'm caring more about the home and the state that we're in, more than the other people who are also involved. So in order to be fair for myself, because it's not 100% my responsibility, this is not my fault in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, but I am not responsible for other people, especially other grown adults. So what I've decided to do is include, thus far, 4 challenges in my home binder that I'm just going to focus on working on and finishing. And once I finish them, I'm just going to reallocate them across the entirety of my binder. I do have 2 current envelopes, which one is for moving, and the other is basically for any renovations or remodeling that may need to be done, whether that's in the current space that we have or a new space. Don't know. I also know that no matter what home I get, I'm a much bigger fan of older homes, so wherever I move is going to need work to some degree anyway. So I decided to keep those 2 envelopes as my current envelopes, and then focus on my DDC challenge book as the only sole challenge for saving for my future home. That'll be for down payment, due diligence, closing cost, and potentially first month of expenses. And then for escrow, which will happen eventually, just in case there are any shortages, I am using the property tax and insurance challenge from T&L Budgets, that difference in number and scratch offs, to save for that. So that was a lot, and I hope it all made sense, but I'm basically generalizing 3 challenges just to go across my whole entire binder. And then down here in my long-term savings, if there's money I specifically want to put into my DDC challenge, I'm going to do so. But since it's getting the $5 weekly, I don't really feel the need to put money in it when I have months like this that are really tight. So that's how that's looking / working out. And then I did have $50 from this check go into my intentional spending. Again, this is more so if I go get lunch, if I need to pick up something up for my dog, if I need to go pick up medications, things like that. So I did put $50 into my intentional spending account from the check. And then the only challenge I put in down here, again, I don't really budget for these. These also get whatever's left over. Some of that. This health and medical challenge, I have the sloth challenge. Again, to go towards copays and whatnot. But I'm also doing a habit tracker that I received from the Budgeting Sisters. And basically, when I fulfill my goal for a given week, they have scratch offs at the end of the calendar. I scratch that off. I save that amount. If I didn't do what I was supposed to do during the week, I still scratch the number off by multiply times 2. So for this month of May, I am saving a total of $21. And I believe out of this, there were 2 weeks where I kind of fell off on my goals, but the rest were fine. And I love this challenge that... Hiccups. Wow, sorry. I love that this challenge is keeping me accountable and actually have me make goals that are health related that, you know, I can say, oh, I want to be healthier this year, but I actually have minute step goals to get there. So there's that. And then I did take $70 from my check to pay off an account that I honestly forgot that I had. It was dormant. They sent me a letter, be like, hey, do you want to reopen this, or do you just want to pay it off and close it? So I decided to pay off and close it. And that was $70. All right, that is it for my full-time budget with me for May. I thank you guys for sticking with me this long. I'm sorry for the rambling and random cuts. Again, I'm trying to get back into recording and budgeting properly and putting into my savings. And hopefully June will look better. And we make bigger strides. You know, life happens, and even though I did have an overage, I am grateful for this process, and I'm grateful for you guys helping with your support and keeping me accountable, because I would have probably panicked. Previous Haley would have panicked. Or be upset that I had to pull from different funds. But doing this process has really changed my mindset around savings. Don't get me wrong, savings is still savings, but at the end of the day, if I have an emergency, it's also emergency savings. And it's meant to be there for these situations. And so I'm learning to be more comfortable with spending in these circumstances, and know that none of this was preventable, nor was it predictable. So with that, I thank you guys for watching. If you made this far in the video, please leave a sun emoji down in the comment section. I thank you guys for watching, and hopefully, crossing fingers, I'll be able to get my part-time budget for May out as well, and see what that was looking like. So thank you guys for watching again. I hope you have a great and solemn Memorial Day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.